everyone. A very good evening to you all. My name is Harleen and I will be your host for today's session. I hope you're all having a pleasant day and are excited and ready for the brand new informative session of the Ask Me Anything series organized by the Institute of Product Leadership. Today's session is on a career in product marketing versus product management. Before I start today's insightful session, let me give you a quick introduction to the Institute. The Institute of Product Leadership is Asia's first business school providing accredited degree programs and certification courses in product management, product leadership, data science, design, strategy, and leadership. The Institute has partnered with 3 universities in India and the University of Houston in the United States. The university was founded in 2012 with the singular mission of creating 10,000 product leaders in the country. Ever since, the organization has designed and delivered programs in collaboration with various institutes, universities, and corporates to the senior working professionals to help them make career transitions into product leadership. The Institute has built and developed a community of over 3,700 plus successful alumni, leading the product, data, and design teams across the world. We are also knowledge partners for 250 plus organizations worldwide. You can find out more about the Institute and the programs offered on our website. Please check the chat window for the URL. And for those of you who have joined us via LinkedIn, please check the comment section for the URL. The International Certification of Product Management is created and curated by industry CXOs focused on learning and career outcomes for aspiring and current product managers, with many case studies, simulations, real-life projects, and personalized coaching. So if you want to know more about the ICPM course, go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen. I'll take a moment here to let you all be able to scan it. Okay, I think we shall move on now. For all the attendees tonight, I have an exciting information for you. Thanks to the University of Houston, you have an opportunity to win the prestigious Graham Scholarship of $200 for the International Certification in Product Management program that is offered by the Institute of Product Leadership. You can win this scholarship if you have the best question in today's session. So that means the best asked question in tonight's session will get this scholarship. Once our speakers for tonight present their insights, we'll open up for questions. Please keep your questions ready as it is important as you could win the scholarship. You can post your questions on Zoom in the Q&A section. This session is also being streamed live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So viewers on any of these channels, please feel free to post your questions in the comment section and we will share it with the speaker. Guys, I urge you all to take up this opportunity and engage with our speakers with some good and intriguing questions. All right then, let me kickstart this evening by welcoming and introducing today's distinguished speakers, Professor Pinkesh Shah and Ms. Tanvista Go. Professor Shah is a seasoned product executive with 25 plus years of experience in building successful products in startups as well as large global organizations. He is currently the Chief Product Officer at Qualys. Prior to this, he was the Global Vice President of Product Management at McAfee in Silicon Valley. He is a guest faculty at several internationally reputed B schools like IIM Bangalore, Amsterdam University, and more. Pleased to welcome you today, Professor. And for our second speaker, Tanvista is the Product Marketing Manager at Zeotab. Her passions lie in content, product, and marketing. Her professional journey began as a technical writer She has also worked at a couple of exceptional startups, after which she gradually progressed to her current role of product marketing manager. A very warm welcome to you both. I'm thrilled to have you here tonight. I hope you're doing well. Professor Shah, the session is yours now.
Absolutely, thank you. And it is a lovely morning here in the US. Good morning for those of you who are joining from the US, and good afternoon from those joining from Europe. Certainly a lovely evening. I'm hoping your day is going well for folks in India. Looking forward to the interactions and the questions and curiosity that all of you have. I've been in the product leadership roles for the last 20 years, and currently heading up all of products and marketing at Qualys. The important thing that I think I see in the landscape today, and I'm certainly going to open it up for questions because I thought it'll be easier to answer questions on what you are interested in as opposed to me presenting any slides. But I think the interesting trend that I'm seeing, and I think the topic that I was asked to put some thoughts around is this whole notion of product marketing versus product management. And I think it's almost converging as one function. I run both products as well as all aspects of marketing, from demand generation to analyst relationships to media to product marketing. And I think product marketing and product management are becoming a lot more integrated in most companies, thanks to product-led growth, which is a modern way of building products, launching products, delighting customers. And so this distinction has become more blurry in the last 5 years compared to what used to be maybe 20 years ago. And so happy to share some perspectives on how we hire, more importantly, and maybe if I'm allowed to put a shameless plug, I am hiring. So we have positions both here in India as well as in US. And I think from a hiring management perspective, we see the two roles that we loosely call inbound product management and outbound product management, really two sides of the same coin. Anybody who wants to participate in creating, building, launching a product essentially is a product manager. And so you move away from kind of the tactical execution into execution, but also participating in the strategic decision making is really that journey that I think most people have to take when you get into product management. But once you get into product management, you also have to now understand both sides of what I call inbound product management, which is understanding the customer, understanding the market problems, understanding which of those problems are worth solving, because not all problems are going to become worthy of solving. Just like not all problems become features, not all features become a product. And by the way, continuing that, not all products become a good business, right? And so how do you prioritize which problems are worth solving? I think from there all the way to prioritizing the capabilities and the solutions to understand that there's the right problem solution fit in the context of customer. The customer may have a problem, and we acknowledge, and the customers acknowledge that there's a problem, but your solution may not be the right fit just because there's so many alternatives available for that end customer. So how do you find that right fit, which is the problem solution fit? And then from there on to prototype, to validate, to build a roadmap, to understand what's going to go in what release, define the requirements if you're following Agile, obviously, you write user stories. If you're following waterfall methodology, you write requirements so that you have clear, unambiguous instructions for your engineering teams to be able to go build it. And when I say engineering, I just don't mean software engineering. It could be construction, it could be medical profession, it could be anybody who's constructing the product, the capabilities. How do you give them precise instructions on how to do that? So all of that journey is your inbound product management. And then you have the product marketing, which is the title that we use in the industry, but really it's the outbound product management, right? If you call it kind of more notionally, is all about you built the product. Now, how are we going to acquire customers at scale? How are we going to create a narrative, a product storytelling to be able to let the customers understand the value that you have created to now be able to distribute that? How are we going to figure out the right sales model in terms of channel, direct, indirect, partnerships, alliances? How are we going to figure out the pricing, packaging? How much should we charge and what should be the model? Do I give it away for now, charge later? Do I do it on a subscription, on a like a monthly model? Do I do upfront, sale with a 20% maintenance cost, a renewal every year? These are a variety of different choices and decisions that one has to make. There are 14 different revenue models, from freemium to rental to subscription to perpetual to captive and so on and so forth. For each of those 14 revenue models, there are associated pricing models, which is the tactics of figuring out why is that Netflix subscription $9.99 per month. Somebody had to do the math. Somebody had to arrive. Why not $7? Why not $15? Right? Or why is that Cisco router sold at $10,000? Why is that GE, medical infusion pump sold at $4,000 versus 1,000 versus 10,000? And so there's a lot of revenue model and associated pricing models that one have to factor in, do the math, arrive at the business plan. And so a lot of that pricing, packaging, messaging, branding, positioning, all of those skills are expected from a product marketing professional, or otherwise called the outbound product manager. And so that's really the two big sides of the coin, which is the inbound product management. You are discovering the value and creating the value. And then you have the outbound product management, which is all about communicating the value and delivering that value to the marketplace, right, to the customer. And so those two together kind of makes you what I call a full stack product leader. It is very important that participants and learners and professionals make sure that you know both of them, because one alone will get you for a while in terms of your growth path, but at some point you need the other. Otherwise, you will not be able to get into kind of more senior leadership roles where you're expected to know both. You're expected to make better decisions. At the end of the day, that's what a product leader really gets paid so well, if you will, which is you develop the experience and the skills to be able to make good decisions. And so that's really the crux of the difference between the two. But happy to, like I said, I'll try to turn this into a no PowerPoint, no slides, and yet answer all the questions you have. So feel free to put your questions in or ask me now. Happy to go into more details. Hopefully that makes sense.
Sir, we already have some questions in the Q&A section. Would you like me to read them out?
Oh, let me go there. Yeah, I can start answering some of those that I see here. So I see one question from Ritesh. Why product management is the best option for research and consulting professionals, and how would it help a 15-year research and consulting professional given that he or she has never worked in product management? Great question, Ritesh. So consulting, the word consulting has many different meanings, right? You know, you can have domain specific consulting, which is helping a customer or a client implement something that they want help with in that particular area. Like, for example, you want to roll out SAP, you want to roll out Six Sigma methodology, you want to roll out, and so when the companies want that expertise, you look for that domain experts, and that's kind of how a lot of companies like Accenture and KPMG and Deloitte and many others, they have these consulting practices. The second kind of consulting practice, and I'm just broadly putting categories so that everybody can understand, is what I call management consulting, where you're not necessarily asking for an expert to come in and help implement something that you already know, but you're asking the management consultant, what do I not know? What area should I get into from a strategy perspective? What new products and services should I deliver as a company? And so in some sense, it's more discovery oriented consulting, right? So short answer is, if you are a research and consulting professional, product management is the most natural and easy segue for you to get into, because a lot of what you do in product management, both inbound and outbound, is really to understand that unsolved problem that is not being solved by anybody, and how can you then figure that out from the customer's perspective and map it back to a solution that you can create. And it's the unsolved problem that usually has the highest chance of successful, because if everybody is already solving it in certain way, yes, you can also have the fifth product in the market or the sixth product in the market, but unless you have a significant advantage on price or delivery style or customer experience, for example, you are not going to win, because there are already crowded market with 5 other vendors doing the same thing. And so I think it's important to research, apply everything from design thinking principles, which many of you who are product managers in the call will know, that's a very important methodology on how you systematically discover the unsolved problems that customers have in different segments, right? And so that research capability, the ability to do management consulting is a perfect segue for you to get into product management. Even though you've never worked in product management directly, Ritesh, that would be my recommendation. It's a very natural fit. I know hundreds of product managers personally who have gone from that Bain Consulting or BCG to from Deloitte and Accenture into product management roles. You do have to go beyond your research capabilities, right? Like I said, ability for you to define the product, define the instructions and requirements in a certain way that engineering can then help monitor the roadmap, make prioritization decisions. And there's a lot of other skills that you need to develop, obviously, but it's a very easy transition to get into. Hopefully that answers your question, Ritesh. I see one from Shweta, that do product managers have to get involved in the costing part of the product implementation? Yes, absolutely. And the reason I say yes, absolutely, is because as a product manager, especially when you get from being a senior product manager to a director of product manager or a senior director, VP of product management, you're managing what we call P&L. For those of you who have not managed P&L or have not heard about this word, it's basically the profit and loss of your entire product. And so you need to know how much money you're going to generate from this product, or at least have a theory, have a educated business model that you're confident of, that you've tested with customers. But you also want to know how much will it cost to not only make this product, but also implement that product in the customer's environment. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to make money at some point. And I know there are a lot of companies who don't make any money and they're always negative, including many large companies in India. I realize that they're not profitable and they probably will never become profitable. Yes, that's another way of doing it. But even if you are not profitable, you need to have your eyes on when will you become profitable. Most other traditional businesses, you have to make money to survive, right? Because otherwise you're just borrowing money from venture capital and other banking loans and things like that. So as you manage the P&L, knowing the cost is not only important for you to make sure that your business is viable, is sustainable for the next several years, but also for the customer, so that you can educate the customer on the total cost of ownership. And total cost of ownership is a very important concept that sometimes a lot of senior product managers, senior product marketing managers forget or don't pay as much attention to. A simple example is when you buy a car, that car is going to be, let's say, $20,000, right? I'm picking an arbitrary number. So when you're buying a car as a customer, your cost is not just $20,000 that you paid. Your cost is to operate that car. You need fuel. Well, add another $5,000 for fuel over the year. You need insurance, which means add another $1,000 for insurance, for example. You probably need a place to store it, a place to park it. If you're in the busy streets of New York or California, well, you'll have to pay another $600 for just the parking fees because you don't have dedicated garage to put that car in. And so if you think about it, if you add up all of these costs, the actual cost of ownership for me as a customer is no longer $20,000, which is what you as a vendor asked me to pay. It is almost $30,000. And so the cost of implementation, the cost of operating your product, you want to reduce it as much as you can, right? Because that way it's savings to your net savings to your customer. But certainly you need to be involved in defining that, in deciding that, so that the overall ROI for your end customer is fantastic, right? And ROI is very simple. If I'm paying $100 to acquire your product, I should get, I don't know, $500 of value, or $1,000 of value, 10x, 10 times more value. That means I got superb ROI, return on investment. And that's going to create delight. And if it's going to create delight, I'm going to keep on buying your product again and again. In fact, not only I'm going to buy your product again and again, I'm going to refer your product to all of my friends and family that this was an awesome deal. This was an awesome value for money. And now you have even bigger funnel, even bigger awareness for your product, right? Because you created that huge ROI for me. So short answer is yes, you not only have to get involved, you have to be super involved in making those decisions, and being part of that costing analysis, so that you can own profit and loss, and be ready for the director level role, because you will need that financial modeling skills for sure as you grow higher up in your career. So hopefully that makes sense, Shweta. I don't know if I can, if I get a yes or no to understand in this webinar format, but I hope Shweta is still there.
Professor, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but just wanted to let you know an alumna from Institute of Product Leadership is here with us. Miss Tanvista has joined. She's on call. She's career transitioned into product marketing. So
Awesome.
yeah, Miss
Good
Tanvista.
to see you, Tanvista, again. And
Yes.
as always, excited to meet alumni um, who really not only known how to upskill and reskill themselves in today's world where you really need to always stay ahead, but also take the necessary action towards that aspiration, right? We all have several aspirations in our life. I have one to stay fit and go to the gym every day. And quite frankly, I'm not doing that, right? Because it sounds great when somebody asks me, do you want to be healthy? I said, of course. But when the time comes to put that action, that commitment, that investment, we all sometimes, lack off. I know I do in many cases. So I always, when I meet an alumni, I always applaud them that, look, not only did you have the removal of your blind spot of what you needed, but you actually went off and invested the time, energy, money to make that happen. So good to see you, Tanvishta.
Yes. Thank you, Pinkesh. And it's always lovely talking to you. And as you just said, I not just had a plan to do, I mean, not just had a thought that I want to do it, but I actually made a plan. I paved the path ahead to achieve it. And thankfully, I'm like, IPL was there with me throughout the process, and I'm happy to share the entire journey.
Awesome. Well, I know there's a lot of questions getting piled up, but I will answer some of those. Maybe Tanvishta can answer some of those after you go through your presentation, Tanvishta.
Yeah, so what we have is, I mean, I really don't have the presentation with me. It would be more or less like an AMA session. I mean,
Okay.
probably there are a few questions that a baseline, I mean, like that probably I can answer, like how I started the role, what made me think of going for product management first, and then how did I actually move to product marketing, and that is how it is. So I'm not sure if you would be asking me the questions and I should go ahead, or how should we take it?
Oh, I'd say it'll be easy for you to just kind of tell your narrative and
Yes,
inspire the rest of the crowd here, and then maybe take some of their questions. I think it's more important
perfect.
for both you and I to make sure that what little we know, how do we share that with others so that it helps them as well in that journey. And quite frankly, the questions that we're seeing here today might be representative of the questions you may have had before you started, right? So in some sense, it's actually more important for you to talk to them than me, because you're a lot more closer to, I guess, their state of where they are in their career paths.
Yes, absolutely. So I just saw a few of the questions which are really interesting, and a few of them that I can answer. But before that, I just wanted to probably let everyone know my previous career, what I was exactly doing in the role before, and why did I decide to move into this role of product marketing. So I have been in the software industry for close to 13 years now, and I started as technical writer. Not many of us might know more about this role, but it is that role who keeps your product up to date for you to use. I mean, the manuals and the online help, the user manual text and things that you see are something that a technical writer prepares. And that is actually how my journey towards being associated with a product started, because I was just doing I after those 10 years into the industry, I felt like I was more associated with an operational role, kind of executing day-to-day activities, and trying to be at par with the product releases, with the engineering requests, the support tickets. I was doing it how things were coming to my way, and trying to be aligned with the product roadmap and releases, but somehow deep inside it felt like I was not really contributing towards something more strategic um, in the organization, something that would help me build the organization better, product, maybe build the product better. And that is what got me thinking into the process that what is that role that would bring me more close to the product, more close to the customers. Uh, as I said, being a technical writer, I was already into the product process, and I was working closely with the product managers. Thankfully, because I've been working in a startup where it is a very small environment, and I already belonged to the product team, and I was close part of the family. I had the UX team and I had the product manager. So I was already interacting with them to understand how are we building this. I mean, why are we? I mean, not really why part. What are we building? I started with the what part because I had to really write the answers of how would the user use it. I really didn't know why we were building it because for me, understanding what the other customers were doing was just seeing their support portal, seeing their product manuals and things. But I really didn't know what each of the product was offering. What is it the solution that we're trying to offer extra, something that the competitors are not doing? And that is how I actually started researching about a role which would help me do it. And that's how I came into understanding that there's a role called product management, which is like really huge. And that's probably how my journey towards transitioning to the product manager started. Of course, it includes a lot of other things like choosing out a particular course, an institute, and a lot of things in, came forward to it.
That's fantastic. What would be useful as you narrate the journey of how you went from a technical writer to product management, learning, and now kind of getting into product marketing. I think a lot of professionals when they call me or when I get into a coaching session, even with our alumni who are in the program, they always have this dilemma. Hey, will I be able to make that shift? Yes, I know I need to. Yes, I know I have some gaps that I need to fill, but will I? There's always this unknown quasi feeling that you have that look, and in fact, that feeling becomes even more pronounced as you have more years of experience, right? So when you have 5 years of experience, you feel like, oh, I can do anything. When you have 10 years of experience, you start thinking, really, can I? And when you have 15 plus years of experience, like, oh, is it too late? And by the way, the short answer is we know that it's never too late, right? While we know that, what has been the dilemma and how did you fight through that dilemma in terms of being able to have that confidence that you have to build that, yes, you can do this, right?
Absolutely, it's a great question. And I still remember how the journey started almost 2.5 years back. And see, I didn't come from a technical background. And how I thought was to become a product manager, you need to have some kind of sound knowledge about how the technology behind the product actually works. And that is something that was keeping me, was holding me back from even thinking of moving to a different role. But then I realized that that is not really something that should stop me. So what I started doing is I started talking to a lot of my ex product managers, some of my mentors. I wanted them to tell me a bit more about the role in detail rather than me going into a certification right away, getting invested into it, and probably right, we might get invested and not get anything out of it, majorly because of time, and the commitment that we have to do. So I just wanted to do a bit of my study before to understand what this role expects out of me. And that is probably when I realized that having the technical knowledge is okay, but more important is you have to think from a customer's point of view. You have to be empathetic. You have to keep your customer in the center and try to build up and think everything around it. Will you be, I mean, I questioned myself that do I have that capability to do it? Because I was already into the product team, writing for the products, probably helping them make the product look better with better intuitive messages and screens, uh, probably a bit of the UX design. But I was not into it. So I realized that I understand the product. I have that empathy. I understand that there's something called creating value. So that is probably I took as my gut feeling and I went ahead that, okay, fine, I think I can do it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's been the journey for thousands that at least I know that have gone through similar programs at the institute, right? There's always this um, interim gap where you feel, and as you said, I think the best way to get that confidence is to build the skills, because once you have the skills, you can say, oh yeah, okay, now I know how to do this. And once you have that confidence, it's very easy to make that shift, make that transition, because you can also not just have the confidence internally, you can showcase some of that work projects and that confidence in your interviews, in your conversations with that prospective hiring manager or internal management team, right? It kind of comes out very naturally. Awesome. Let's see. You want to pick some questions? Why I think there's some that
Yeah,
are, yeah.
I see a few interesting questions there. So I'm going from the most recent one, probably the most latest one. I see something from Nilanjan. I can probably take that, and it says that a quick question for Tanvishta. So it's for me, I believe. I'll just take it then. So the first question there says, what motivated you to transition from previous role to product marketing? And I think I kind of have answered to that. Then comes the second one, most rewarding point. Okay, so this is something interesting. I'll tell you. This is something that's very personal. I remember I've been in this product team for more than into the product team for more than 4 years now. And one thing that I remember is we would be part of this product roadmap meetings. And while all the product managers would make in and contribute something important towards what to be picked up, what we are building, rest of the other members of the product team would sometimes be silent and just not be able to make any point. So that was one particular situation that I remember from some of my previous experiences, that I really wanted to contribute in these kind of strategic decisions, like what should be built, why are we building this, or probably have a debate of why are we prioritizing this feature and not the other one. So these kind of situations are. This is one of those situations where when I really wanted to make that move and thought that okay, this is why I think I should move from my current role to do something more functional, not really operational and executing things. The third one, key difference you've noticed. Okay, so if I ask about work environment, nothing. My company has been very supportive because it has been an internal transition. One thing that was there in my previous role and is also there in the same role is stakeholder management, and being an influencer and collaborator between different roles. So earlier I was collaborating or influencing more between the product and the engineering team. Now it is not just the product and engineering team, it is the other team, the entire go-to-market team, right? So we have the marketing team, we have the customer success team, we have the solution engineers, the sales team. So it's more about interacting with them, being an influencer, collaborating with them. So that is one key differentiating factor in the working environment from the previous role to now.
That's a fantastic difference. In fact, it's important to know that product managers, inbound product managers, since I've now used that vocabulary on this call, are a key link between customer and engineering. And so there's a lot of that interactions. Of course, you interact with everybody else as well, but I think that's your kind of key stakeholders. But as Tanvishta said, in product marketing management, you're actually now the key link between product manager and sales and demand generation side of marketing, right? Because customer success side of the company, because you're now taking what has been built and making sure that it is presented in a way that is understood by different stakeholders for them to be able to do a better job. So for sales to sell better, for customer success teams to answer the questions better, for sales engineers to be able to demo the product better, for demand generation to be able to write better ad copies for that LinkedIn ad or that Google ad that we're going to write, or that blog that we're going to put up there. All of these stakeholders require different kinds of simplicity and a format, which is what the product marketing person really has to provide and be that conduit. So I think that's a very good distinction. I'm going to take a few as you pick your next question, Tanvishta, and I'll give you a few minutes to compile your list as I be efficient with our time and pick some from what I see. I see one from an anonymous attendee. I don't know who that is, but I hope that person is still here. Can someone from non-technical background get into product? Absolutely. Well, Tanvishta answered that, right? I mean, here's a live example of somebody who has not come from a typical IIT Kharagpur gold medalist software engineer, which, by the way, 71% of product managers in the research that I saw done 2 years ago, 71% of product managers in India, they actually come from some kind of technology engineering background. And so this question often gets asked, hey, but I don't have the technical background, so will I ever be able to make it? And the answer is absolutely yes. You're seeing a live example here today on the call, but there are hundreds of others who are not technical, who have not gone through an engineering background, who do not go do software development for the last 10 years, and have still been able to map their journey into product management. So this is a myth that I think we somehow has too much happening in India, that you have to be somehow technical to become a product manager. No, you do not. Now, I want to caveat that by saying, if your end product is built for developers, then, well, you better understand that market because you're marketing to an engineer. Like if you're in Amazon, your background as a technology engineer who becomes a product manager is more valuable to Amazon, not because of your background and what you studied in engineering, but because you're building products at that AWS service, the cloud service for another engineer. And so knowing your customer is always better because you'll make better decisions, right? So in some senses, that is important. And yes, you may get a preference, but in general, we've seen medical professionals become product manager. I'm one of my favorite alumni in Mumbai. She was a dietitian. She got into the program, has now become the product manager at a large hospital. We have people from program management and project management, very popular path to become a product manager. We have sales, pre-sales, sales, very popular. So it doesn't matter where you are coming from. What matters is where you're wanting to go to, right? And so I hope I answered that question for the anonymous attendee.
Excuse me for interrupting. We have one question on LinkedIn. Mr. Shiva Kumar asks, do we have a predefined or tested procedure to follow in developing a product? He follows it up with asking if there's any difference between user experience and customer experience.
Yeah, two great questions. Is there a methodology of how you build products? Yes, but I'm using the word methodology, not a formula, because every product is different and you will have to understand certain things about the market, the unsolved problems, the way you want to find the problem solution fit, how competitive landscape looks like, right? And there's a lot of those factors that go in. But yes, there's a methodology of how to do user research. There's a methodology of how to figure out unsolved problems using design thinking, for example. There's a methodology and best practices on how to create what we call a user journey versus a user flow. And again, going back to the second question, what is the difference between user experience and customer experience? Was the question difference between user experience and customer experience, or what was the exact question? The second one.
Yeah, it was, what is the difference between user experience and customer experience? Okay,
perfect. Customer experience is end-to-end, right from the time, for example, you go to a bank, which I know most people don't go to a bank. So let me take a different example. Let's say you go to a theme park, whether it's a Disney theme park here in the US or pick your local theme park in India or wherever you are. From the time you research, buy the tickets, show up at the park, get the entry, stand in the long line before you even get that ride. That whole experience end to end, and then you take the ride, you come back and you enjoy, right? Take a picture. That whole experience is what we call end-to-end CX, customer experience. A subset of that customer experience is the actual PX, the product experience. Because remember, so let me take a different example. Buying a Tesla, it is considered one of the most rich experiences when you buy Tesla in US, right? Because there is no dealership to go to, there is nobody haggling with you, it's very seamless. The product part, in this earlier example of a theme park, the ride, the 5-minute ride, the roller coaster ride that you took is the actual product, right? But before you got to the product experience to make sure that the roller coaster ride was good, there's a lot of before and after in the way you got to that ride, right? So that whole thing is customer experience. Subset of that is product experience. In that product, you have user experience, which is the exact flow of, let's say if it's a software product, did you log in? Then did they ask you to do some checking and take a questionnaire? Did they then allow you to go see the biryani on Zomato or Swiggy? And then they were able to add to the cart. And then you checked out and picked a time for delivery. That interface of what interactions, I should say, not interface, the interactions that you have to do in the product is your user experience. And then the last one is the visual aspects of how you were guided in that interaction is your UI, or what we call user interface, right? And so CX, if you think about like a Russian doll or a concentric circle, the outermost circle is your customer experience. Within the customer experience is your product experience. Within the product experience, you have user experience. And within that, you have the actual UI, the visual, the color scheme, the fonts, the typography that makes you feel, wow, the Swiggy app is an awesome app. And I want to keep on ordering biryani from here, even if it's $10 more or 100 rupees more, right? And so that is the journey that I think you want to know and you want to master that. Now, coming back to the topic of product management and product marketing, both product management and product marketing needs to know all aspects of CX, PX, UX, and UI. However, you may not be an expert at it because there's a dedicated user experience designer profession, who usually in small companies, you'll have maybe 2 or 3 of them. In large companies, you have large teams. Like in my company, I have about 20 user experience folks, right? Dedicated user experience designers. And so as a product manager, you now need to know enough about design, enough about customer experience, enough about product experience to be able to interlock with them better, to give them better guidance, to collaborate with them better. Because if you don't have those skills, well, you're not going to be invited to those decision-making meetings, right? So you also want to make sure that not only do you know about it, you need to have enough skills. So hopefully that answers the question to whoever asked that. I think I'm gonna take the next one that I see here from Vinita. Very early on, she asked the question, I think, I have a technical product manager in a large financial services firm. How do I gain exposure to marketing as it's done by an entirely different team? I'm sure Tanvishta may have something to add to that as well, because this is something that she's going through right now as we speak. I'll expand the question, Vinita, if you allow me, for a little bit more broader question, which is, if I'm X, I want to do Y, right? In your question, the X is technical product management and Y is product marketing, right? But if you expand the question a little bit more and say, if I'm X and I want to do Y, what is the best way to go about it, right? Which is, I think, a question that many of you may have as well. So in behalf of Vinita and others, let me answer that. Every time we all go into this loop or into this scenario, there's really 3 things that we have to do. First, I need to know what skills are necessary to do Y. Aspiration to go do Y is good. I think that's important. But aspiration alone doesn't get us anywhere, right? I mean, just like I said, I have the aspiration to develop 6 packs, and I have the aspiration to go climb Himalayas one day, and I have the aspiration. My aspiration list is pretty long, by the way, and I'm sure yours, everybody on this call as well. However, aspiration on its own doesn't get you much. You need to build the necessary skills. So first step, you need to build the right skills to be able to have the right vocabulary, the right conversational material, the right understanding of how that world operates. Second, you need to have enough evidence that you have now taken those skills and applied them in some context, even if it's a fictitious context, even if it's a theoretical situation, but you need to have a application point of view. So for example, if I say that I want to learn product design or user experience design, A, build the skill, B, go redraw how the checkout experience of biryani should look like on Swiggy. You don't need permission from Swiggy to go create a new user experience, a new UI. You can just open up Figma and start, rendering your new idea without anybody's permission. That becomes a portfolio for you to showcase to someone that, look, you indeed know how to do user experience design. So that's the second important step. Build a portfolio, build a showcase that you can do. And third is networking, right? You need to hang out with those people in the why domain. You need to find them on LinkedIn. You need to find them through your colleagues at work. You need to find them through the community. Hey, you can find them through these gatherings like the ones that Institute of Product Leadership keeps on doing, these networking events, right? Find more people, find a coach, find somebody, hang out with Tanvishta. If your interest is to get into product marketing, you should be sending and flooding her inbox in LinkedIn right now with connection requests, right? If I were you. Because you want to hang out with people who've done it before. You want to hang out with smart folks, and you want to hang out from people who you can learn from. And so network, network, network. You need to super important. Gone are the days where things are, hey, if I do this degree, if I do that certificate, if I do this program, automatically I get Y. Don't count on it. And I know maybe the Institute of Product Leadership is going to get upset at me saying this so direct and blunt. And I'm not just saying this for this institute. I'm just saying this for everywhere. I mean, I teach at IIM, I teach at other places in India. And I say this blanketly for everyone. Just because you do X, automatically I get Y. Gone are those days. And those days are great for freshers, for 0 to 2 years of experience who are just starting in the early stage of their career. If all of you or most of you are 5+ years of experience or 3+ years of experience, that doesn't apply to you anymore. And so the 3 steps: build the skills, build the portfolio to showcase those skills, and network with the right set of people in that function, right? So hopefully, Vinita, I answered your question and maybe some other questions that people may have had around how do you make that starting step of that journey, because otherwise it just remains aspiration. It remains those unfulfilled dreams that we all have sometimes. And so let that not happen to your professional career path. Even though you may be as lazy as me, not going to the gym, you do not want to do that to your professional career path for sure. Awesome. I see a lot of questions. Anything you want to pick up, Tanvishta?
Yes, probably I can pick up the one that Tanmay has sent. He's saying that I have around 11 years of experience across product marketing and content. I'm trying to make a switch to PM, but what are some of the areas to prioritize? So one of the key, the challenges that my organization, before I moved into the product marketing role, saw was we kind of had someone doing the product marketing role, but that person was not close to the product. So they didn't really know the product well. So the first starting ground around transitioning to from product marketing to the product side would be understand the product well, be hands-on, try to play around with it, understand it, what exactly is being done from screen 1 to screen 0 to screen Z, to help understand what is the customer's journey towards the entire flow. That is one first area. I mean, because second, when you have already been part of the product marketing and content building, so I assume you have been associated with teams like the sales or the CSMs or sometimes maybe the professional services. So you already know the kind of questions that they are being flooded. Probably if I start with the customer success team or the solution engineers team, you know the kind of problems that they're solving for their customers, right, for their clients. And if I mean, and you kind of you have to go back and ask them if they're asking this question to the product managers what is the solution that were provided to them. Probably they would sometimes it's seen that this customer success manager might know the product in a certain way, which is not exactly the way that the solution works. Uh, a new feature that is being released might have 2 or 3 different features, of which the benefits that each of these features are providing. Probably a product manager knows what is the exact benefit that the end user is going to get out of it. Sometimes it is seen that the customer success managers or maybe the sales team, they don't really know the exact problem that is being solved. So for you to understand why we are solving the problem and what benefit is actually tied up to that feature, you need to be hands-on with the product. I mean, I'm not really sure how it would be easy for the other organizations, but at least because for me it was a internal transition, I knew the product well, and I have been using the product for almost 2 years. So I was more close to it. And I would say the first stepping stone towards moving close to the product team would be understanding the product better. Probably you could do it like if you have a demo environment, and if you already have a trainer who's giving the demo experiences, get in touch with them to understand the product better. Each touch point, right? What kind of questions are coming up, what kind of use cases they're explaining. This is how you will get more close to the product, and probably only then you would be able to influence product roadmaps. Probably understanding you are the product marketing team already, you are already interacting with the GTM team members. So you kind of know the questions that they are asking. But sometimes like it's more or less by the product team who builds up and decides the product roadmap, right? So probably you coming from that point of view can kind of influence the decisions to uh, include something or probably exclude or kind of influence their product roadmap decision. So first is understanding the product better, then um, coming to influencing the product roadmap. These two are my suggestions, probably.
There's a lot of questions that I'm seeing on the about the course. What will happen to me once I do this course, or how did I decide? How can I decide? There's a question from Naga who's saying I'm kind of an AI ML person, and will MBA help? I think if I can maybe combine a lot of these questions and maybe ask you, Tanvishta, about your journey in terms of the actual decision. If you go and zero in, how did you decide? I'm sure these questions came to your mind like the way it's happening here with on the minds of a lot of people. What all did you evaluate? How did you make up your mind and decide? Because obviously that some dilemma must have gone through your head as well, right? In terms of your search. Maybe if you can share that perspective, that will help answer 3, 4 of these questions that I see.
Yes, absolutely. So we all know that a lot of courses out in the market, right? There are certain things that Udemy is also providing and Coursera is also providing. It's not that I didn't really see them. I also saw a few more uh, product management certifications that were being provided by IIM, by ISB, by SPGen. But the reason why I chose IPL was I understood that I needed a classroom kind of environment to understand and pick up these topics. I needed a one-on-one coaching. I needed some mentor to guide me. And that mentorship should not just be limited to the hours that are dedicated in a week in the number of classes and be limited to that only. So when I started looking for courses or certifications, I of course started with Udemy and Coursera, but I realized that what they have written is it's quite brief. In 3 or 4 hours, you really can't understand the entire journey of a product manager. You would not even be able to touch up every necessary elements that are included in building a product manager. So I first thing was I just let them go off, and then I started talking to a few of my mentors who actually then came back and suggested me a few more courses, but they were like in different mostly certain things that have been provided by product company, product headquarters. Those were very the budget was above mine. I mean, the kind of amount that I was interested in investing, these were going above my budget. That's when I came across the ones that were be provided by ISB, SPGen, and IIM Core, if I remember it well. But the one thing that I realized is the number of modules that they were covering, and the number of months around which this course was broken down was not really something that I felt could be synchronized, because we are all working professionals and we kind of have 8 hours of working hours Monday to Friday, and we just have the weekend. So we would either be studying over the weekend, or if in case it is a weekday class, then we have to squeeze in some time after our working hours, right? So I was looking for some certification that would give me enough time to not just understand the fundamentals, but also be able to practice it. One big point about IPL was, I remember when the day I enrolled, I got a call from the account manager, and the person was very supportive enough to actually make me understand the entire course material, take me through the entire curriculum, and then also help me understand what goes out and beyond the curriculum. It is the one-on-one training sessions that I can schedule with all my mentors, and the amazing network of industry leaders and the alumni that IPL has is something that I was looking for. And to be honest, if you ask me, we had 5 modules, Pinkesh, and of which each of them we had submissions, right? It was capstone and they were assignments, but the biggest part was each of these modules at the end had a skeleton. So you just don't learn, I mean, just read and study and keep it with you. You actually learn by doing. You get to participate in this and then exchange your ideas. Doesn't matter if you win or lose, but you actually get evaluated against few of your other I mean, aspiring product managers, right? So these everything, like, I knew I have someone to teach me, and I had an environment where I can probably bring it to practice and learn better.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, I think what you said is powerful. And most important thing to me is this whole concept of learning by doing. I think gone are the days where psychologically we are all accustomed to what we call learning by listening, right? So, back in the early days, and some of you are young, but oldies like me, you had to sit in a class, listen to a lecture. That's kind of how you grew up. That's how you did your undergrad, and that's how you did your graduate studies. And I think in executive education, in adult education, experiential learning is the right way, the new way of doing, which is learning by doing things, as opposed to just learning by listening, right? And so that's a very important point for sure. And like you said, the analogy that I always give, in fact, somebody gave me, so I'm borrowing that analogy from that person who coached me many years ago. He said, look, Pinkesh, it's like learning swimming. Um, just instructions on how to swim and learning the theory and the framework and the best practices is not enough. You need a swimming pool to practice that swimming, right? Otherwise, it's just good entertainment. Yes, you got a degree. Yes, you answered a bunch of quiz questions at the end of the program, and you feel like you are a swimmer, but you're not, because you've not really done enough swimming. And so you need a sandbox environment to play. In this case of example of swimming, you need a swimming pool. But the third part, and I think what you just said relates back to that analogy that he gave me. He says the third part that's the most important part in the learning exercise of swimming. And it was eye-opening for me. He said, the coach who's watching you swim in that swimming pool is actually the most important part, because you don't know whether you're making the mistakes of flapping your legs too much, or creating too much splash of water and wasting your energy as you're swimming. Your posture may not be right. Only a third party coach who's dedicatedly watching you and assigned to you to ensure that you're swimming right, that feedback, that coaching is invaluable, right? And so knowing how to swim, then having a swimming pool to practice the swimming, but then having a coach watching you one-on-one, I think that to me is more complete learning, right? And I think in some sense that's learning by doing as well. So yeah, I absolutely makes sense. Okay, there's a lot of questions on AI, ML. I see some of those from Naveen on UX design. I see some of those from I think Anupam and I see. So let me and Naga, I think, who had a question as well. Let me paraphrase this in interest of time and combine these questions. Is AI ML important? Absolutely. In today's world, I think it's almost impossible for you to not encounter AI ML, whether you're a product marketing person and talking about generative AI, whether you're a product management person, trying to monetize that AI feature, whether you're a data scientist in the team, trying to create the new algorithm, and the new kind of predictive modeling. AI ML is important from an understanding perspective. Now, the question is, what does that mean from a career perspective? If you are a product leader, the necessary thing for you is to understand what we call applied AI. And applied AI is not about coding or writing Python code or statistical modeling, or regression, none of that. You need that if you want to become a data scientist, which is a different, career path than an applied AI person, right? From a business context. So if you are a data science professional, you have to at some point make up your mind. Do you want to become a pure research scientist, a data scientist who will continuously tweak the models, look at large pieces of data, understand the mathematical modeling, and arrive at a better prediction modeling and improve from 97% to 97.2%, right? That takes a lot of time. Or do you want to become what we call a AI ML, applied AI ML person in the product management context, who will work with the data scientist, understand the data science models, but know how to monetize that, know how to present that better in your product as a feature. A good example of this, which will make it easy for you to all to understand, is kind of the Uber app that had a surge pricing feature. I don't know if they still have that in India or not. Do they have that in India, Tanvishta, do you know? The surge pricing, where they charge you 1.6x of the fare because no, they're not. Okay, so some of you may recall it was available in India as well, but in US this still is around, right? And for those of you who don't know this feature, it's a simple feature that says, look, you want to take an Uber cab from point A to point B. Typically that's 500 rupees, but right now you have to pay 1.4x the price because of the number of drivers and the availability of number of people wanting to get a ride and the number of drivers available to give that ride, right? So because it's a surge price, because of it's a rush hour or office hours or whatever, you now have to pay 1.4x. Now, guess what? The feature of allowing the customers to surface up that capability real time based on who you are and your profile and history of how many rides you take, you have to now pay 1.4x times the fare. This feature is an AI ML feature, yet the product manager had to figure this out, how to present the backend algorithm that can compute and then monetize that. That's $26 million extra that Uber makes every year just on this feature. So if Uber is going to make hundreds of millions of dollars of normal ride fare, because of surge pricing as a new feature, they now make $26 million more. The product manager had to understand enough AI ML to sit down with the data scientist, understand the parameters and the power of that algorithm, understand the customer context. Are they willing to pay? How many of those are going to pay? Not everybody is going to pay that extra 1.4x, which means you lose that customer to Ola, to Lyft, to whatever else. How do you make those trade-off decisions? In that context, that is an important understanding that the product manager and the product marketing manager has to have. So yes, you have to understand it, but know the nuance. It's not about learning Python and data science. It's about applied AI. So I would strongly recommend you should learn that. And yes, if your executive MBA program or if your product management program has that module, even better. If you don't add on to that module, I know the Institute of Product Leadership has a kind of 4-week program, just on AI ML, applied AI ML, right? So I strongly recommend you take a look at that. Andrew NG has lots of free courses. In fact, Google just released about 11 free courses on AI MLs. Take a look at some of those. But it's strongly recommended that you definitely be proficient at this. Okay, I see Anupama. I've played roles like software developer for 17 years, currently on a break, is transitioning to product management, a role, a better, absolutely. Anupama, I mean, this is a no-brainer. Yes, you can take data science. Yes, you can take, there are 3 hot careers, right? If I step back from the conversation and to just answer Anupama's question a little bit more broadly, there are 3 hot careers, in my opinion, in the next 15 years, next 15, 20 years, right? It's data, design, and product. Hottest career path. Not enough people skilled. And as a hiring manager, I can tell you, I'm having a difficulty in hiring all of these 3 types of resources. And I'm not alone. There are thousands of openings for product management that go unfilled because there's just not enough people who can play that role. There are a lot of people who will apply to the role, but just because you're a project manager or a program manager, just called a product manager in your company doesn't make you a product manager, right? You have to have the necessary skills to do that, right? So true product managers are hard to find. On an average, we are ending up paying as a hiring manager 30 to 40% more. 2 people, same backgrounds, same years of experience, same pedigree. One has product management skills that they can demonstrate. One does not. You get 30, 40% more pay just because there's just enough, not enough people and a lot of demand. So I would strongly recommend product management as a career path for you, Anupama, based on what you're telling me. Let's see, what else did we Varsha asks a very good question. Is there something like too many products? Absolutely. There is a thing called too many products. In fact, there is a methodology called portfolio management where you systematically kill products, especially in large companies who's been around for 10 years, 15 years, right? You end up building products and one after the other. Turns out that the old products are not doing too well. Why would you spend your R&D dollars, your engineering dollars, your construction dollars on products which are not doing well? So how do you start killing stuff is as important as how much you start building new stuff, right? And that process, there's a very famous framework. You can do a Google search on it and you'll find lots of material called the GE McKinsey model. And the GE McKinsey model is a framework that allows you to map all of your products in one grid, compare one versus the other, that clearly tells you these are the 3 products candidates for you to kill based on all the parameters, right? So yes, there is a very strong portfolio management or within product management. When you get to a director level role, you will in fact be doing a lot more of those because you manage more than one products now. And when you get to senior director, VP, you manage, a whole, like at my level, I manage multiple business units now. So I can't have unlimited amount of engineers keep on hiring for every person who wants more bandwidth, who wants more work. So I have to kind of rationalize. How do I do that? I go back to GE McKinsey model. Let's see, Deepak has a question that being a program manager or a project manager does not make you a product manager. That is correct. So how can it be easy for an individual contributor as a web designer, for example? Yeah, look, so Deepak, the answer to that question is what I said earlier. If you're a web designer, if you're a UI designer, if you're a project manager, if you're a salesperson, it really doesn't matter who you are. What matters is where you want to be. And if the goal is to get into product management, it's very, very doable. Same 3 steps that Tanvishta talked about that I think I mentioned earlier. Build the skills, demonstrate those skills, network, right? That's your predictable way to get into product management, independent of where you are and who you are today. So I would say, sure, the answer is yes, you can do this. Archie Patel says, what degrees are needed to be in product management or product marketing? Well, I can give you a controversial answer perhaps, but in my opinion, a more direct and blunt answer, none. This is not about degrees, and this is not about certifications. This is not, yes, if you have the degree, I'll give you 5 extra points. Yes, if you have a recognized certification in the industry, I'll give you 5 extra points. Why? Because you put the effort. You took the time away on a weekend. To Tanvish's point, she had enough Netflix to do every weekend. She had enough mall hopping that she was probably going to do every weekend. And yet she invested her time and energy to devote to learning. You get 5 points automatically, right? Doesn't matter what you learned or didn't learn. So the question is not about the degree or the certificate. The question is that degree or certificate process going back to learning by doing? Is it allowing you to create skills, not just theory, not just knowledge, not just vocabulary, but is it really helping you build skills? If the answer is yes, enroll in that program tomorrow. Don't wait. Don't think too much. Don't overanalyze the situation too much, because sometimes we also get into too much of this choice syndrome, right? I'm sure everybody knows what a choice syndrome looks like. So there's a lot of psychological studies made that sometimes you have so many choices, you end up taking none. You end up taking none of them because you're constantly comparing and you're taking years to figure out which one is better. And that's not the point. The point is you're thirsty. You need a bottle of water. Take the next best bottle of water that you see on that Walmart or Big Bazaar shelf. But what if that Big Bazaar shelf had 16 types of water? You're not going to spend time analyzing every single water bottle because you're thirsty right now. You're wasting time too much. And so don't overanalyze this too much as well. It's very simple. Pick one that you're comfortable with, but make sure that the outcome cannot be a degree alone. The outcome cannot be just because I did this certification, glow is going to come at the back of my head all of a sudden. No, that's not going to happen, no matter where you do it from. So the process of learning, the methodology of learning is more important than, yes, it certainly helps to have Institute of Product Leadership as a brand. It certainly helps to hang out with smart people and network. It certainly helps with ISB as a brand, for example, is a very good school in India. UC Berkeley is a very good brand. Brands are helping you 5 points extra, right? But the remaining 90 points is really what you did in that program. And how did you demonstrate? Can you demonstrate the skills that you build through that program, right? So it's kind of a more direct answer, if you will, Archie. I don't know if that makes sense. Varsha, what are the best platforms to learn product management? I mean, you're the Institute of Product Leadership, so you should definitely explore that, learn about that. But look, I categorize the learning, and product management learning is no different, but I categorize the learning into 3 buckets, right? And this is a broader question that many of you may have asked earlier, but I want to try and give you my insights, my feedback at least, right? The first one is what I call the online, online type of learning. And that learning produces awareness. And I'm making the key distinction between awareness, literacy, skill, and expertise. There's actually 4 types of outcomes that happen when you say, I want to learn something. The other day, I told my wife, I want to learn Italian cooking because I want to impress her with my new skills. And she very nicely smiled, knowing that I'm not going to follow up on my aspiration. And so now I'm reading up on Italian cooking. I'm looking at YouTube videos. I have some online courses on Coursera and Udemy and Upgrad and wherever else, right? That is your first bucket of learning, which is helping you build awareness. Second type of learning, second type of stage is getting literacy. So instead of just doing the YouTube video, I sign up for a 5 online sessions or a 2 days of workshop on a weekend, or a couple different 2-minute videos as a series. Now I build literacy. Instead of awareness, which is the first level, the low level, now the next best level is literacy. I can speak about it, I can talk about it, I can frame sentences around it, I can sound intelligent around it, right? So when somebody goes to a party and asks me about my Italian cooking, I can say, oh, spaghetti pasta is different than linguine pasta, is different than bow tie pasta, is different than whatever else pasta, because pasta is not just pasta, there is a variety of that. So I can speak that language. And most people did not know that there's a difference between linguine and spaghetti, even though they both look exactly the same. So now that's literacy, not skill. We still haven't gotten to skill. It's just literacy. The second bucket of learning, so that's all your online learning. The second bucket of learning is now you have an immersive learning, the way Tanvishta explained, you know, 5 months, 5 modules, or 18 months in that executive MBA program, right? You have an immersive learning with coach, with programs, with projects that you have to do. You have to apply that. You do skillathons. Now I'm getting into the kitchen and actually trying to boil that spaghetti, put the sauce in it, get the right flavorings, test it out. And that is going to allow me multiple times, if I do this, to actually build the skill. So when I use the word skill, this is what I mean by skills, right? You need so there are different kind of programs. One, just to build awareness and literacy. Nothing wrong with it, by the way. Those are good start, but just keep sure that you keep your expectations in check. Just because you do some online certificate from something somewhere doesn't mean you have the skills to do that. You need to now have the second type of program, which is immersive learning. And then the third type of program is more face-to-face at the campus, a little bit more cohort-based learning. And this is where a lot of the executive MBA programs that you see, the weekend programs that you see, UC Berkeley has a very good program. Harvard has a very good program that a lot of people from India fly into Boston, spend 2 weeks or 4 weeks with the cohort, right? And so that is a whole new level of now learning, where you're not only doing the skills, but you're now trying to become an expert at it. So awareness and literacy, skills and expertise. These are 3 maturity models, maturity levels of learning. So going back to your question, what are the best platforms to learn product management? My simple answer now, Varsha, is, well, what is the outcome that you're seeking? If it's awareness and literacy, don't even spend money. Go to YouTube, and start picking up a channel, start reading videos. If your outcome is skill, well, you need something that's a little bit more thorough, beyond just a weekend thing, beyond just a 5 videos thing. And if you want to become an expert, well, you certainly need to start thinking a little bit more comprehensive, more campus driven, more face-to-face driven, right? And so depends on what your outcome is. Those are the 3 categories of platforms, Varsha. I hope I was able to answer your question in depth.
I can take one probably. I don't know who asked it, but I just saw there was one around the difference between marketing and product marketing. So this is one of the most common one that I'm mostly asked by my fellow technical writer friends as well. That we could have chosen to go into the marketing team. Why did you choose to go into the product marketing team, right? First, the one common link between both is passion towards content is what I personally would say, because I'm more passionate towards content. And the other thing is, marketing talks more about your brand, right? It's brand's entity, its presence in the market, its vision, how the competitors in the market, how the market is actually envisioning it, how they're seeing it. Whereas product marketing is about the capabilities, the offerings that your product provides you, right? Take it to the right market and position it better, and make the right kind of noise in the market. you're kind of using the same channels, the methods the same, but the way you're communicating, the messaging, the positioning, the personas that you're targeting, right? That is what kind of makes both different. The funnel is pretty much same, but then the kind of content that you're talking about. So there's something that we as product marketeers prepare is something called a thought leadership topic. This is a perfect blend between a brand marketing and product marketing initiative, I would say personally, because these kind of articles, or I'm just taking one of the examples, which it talks about what your brand does. I mean, the your brand's value in the market, and then you tie it up into something that the other competitors are talking and how you're positioning your product into it. So it is a blend between uh, what company, I mean, the voice of the company is in the market, how the entire market is envisioning it, how is it taken, perceived, and then you're adding on to it in terms of the product capabilities and offerings that you're providing. So one is both kind of has the same funnel, same structure, but the way you communicate and you put out the right message is what makes it different. One, you talk about the brand overall and its vision, its motto, its strength, and its building its value, and the other one is more about the product, the offerings. What is the customer going to get by using it? What benefits, what pain points are you solving for them? What challenges are you solving? That is how it is.
There's a lot of questions. I'll take this one. And I'll give you some industry understanding. The salary is always an important question that a lot of people ask in India, as well as in the US, right? But it's important at the end. I tell you, my ranges are anywhere from 40 lakhs to 1 crore, right? Or 1.2 crore. So that's typically what we see as a product manager. And the range is pretty wide. Depends on what you can demonstrate in terms of your ability for inbound product management, plus outbound product management, plus data product management. Like I mentioned, the applied AI ML. If you have that skill, certainly you have a premium. Do you understand user experience design? Can you create a journey flow? Can you map out the vision of how the product is going to look like? If you have that skill, you add another premium to that. And so it really depends on how well you present yourself and how much evidence can you show us as a hiring manager. But look, here's the sample work that I've done. But I think the range is pretty high. And like I said, the numbers just keeps on growing. For product management salaries in India, and people are willing to pay because there's just not enough for product marketing, product managers in the system.
Professor,
Looks.
Sorry, I use. Please
No, go ahead. Looks like you're coming online to probably tell us that we're on time now. And
in view of the time constraints, we will have to end the question answer session here, unfortunately. But I do see that we have had a lot of questions come up. So to the audience members that weren't able to have their questions answered, you can scan this QR code that is up on the screen right now, and you can get an exclusive one-on-one session with our counselor to clear all your doubts. I'll give you a moment here to scan the QR code. It will take you to a link that you can book an appointment with our counselors for an exclusive one-on-one session. Till this QR code is on screen, to our speakers, we have to choose the best question asked tonight to give away the reward of the scholarship. So Tanvista and Professor, I would request you to choose the best question asked today.
That's a tough
I
one.
would leave it to Pinkesh then. Yeah,
I was
definitely.
going to say,
I'm leaving the tough question to you.
Yeah, exactly. You should choose because there's so many good questions here today. Let's see. Man, that's hard. That's hard. I think I see a lot of good questions on AI, on careers, on I am going to just pick one, not necessarily the only good one. I think I see a lot of good ones. Maybe Shweta. How about we pick Shweta? Shweta Garg.
Okay.
She's also curious about getting the recording of the session, so maybe she gets that and the best question award.
Okay, congratulations, Shweta. I will get in touch with you regarding your scholarship details. Well, fine. Speakers, our experts, thank you so much for delivering such a brilliant session and an engaging one. It was really great. I appreciate you taking out your time. Thank you so much.
Have a fantastic evening for those of you who are on the other side. And it was great. Happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any questions that the team will forward to us. Look, this is an important juncture of life where everybody's asking, what should I do next? And I'm so glad that at least some of you, while for every one of you that's here asking this question, there's at least 1,000 others who are not even asking this question. And so I applaud you for putting that Netflix on break or Swiggy's biryani on break or whatever else that you had to stop to be here, because it's an important thing to ask and learn, and that curiosity itself is important. Just my parting thought would be, don't take too long. Whichever path you choose, including a free course on YouTube, start doing something. Would be my simple observation. A lot of people regret a lot of times about, oh, I wish I had done this 2 years ago. I wish I had done this sooner. And so don't fall in that regret button. Whatever makes sense to you, pick the direction and start upskilling, start reskilling, because that's the only way you're going to grow and do well. So with that, wish you all very best, and good connecting with you, Tanvishta. Look forward to meeting you next time I'm in India.
Yes, absolutely, Pinkesh. And I think I would just add a bit more on what Pinkesh just said. Make your plan. If you really know that you want to move to a new role, and product management or product marketing is that one role, then make a plan and try to find out the time to actually be invested into this process, because you would need to take out the time out of your everyday work schedule and then get committed to it. So that's it. Thank you. Thanks a lot to everyone who joined in, and you can just connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you, Tanvishta. Well, finally, I want to thank you, all the attendees, for giving us your valuable time. And I hope you've had a fruitful time at today's session. And I look forward to hosting you in the future. On that note, I will end today's session. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a great rest of the evening. Thank you. Bye.